Hello! Welcome back to the SAPS podcast, episode 7 of our Leftovers Watch, where 3 absolute fucking clowns try and break down a really complicated fucking TV programme. I am one of your hosts, Sam, joined, as always, by my multi-talented co-hosts, Phil.
Good evening, all. Who's this other clown that's joining us then? Because
You mispronounced lettuce.
And that is your other co-host. We've allowed him back for this week, and
Save the best till last. Why not?
if you like, that's not what the feedback's been telling us, but we'll go with what you say.
Confidence is important. Yeah.
So, as we always say, our spoiler policy is that there'll be no future spoilers for The Leftovers, as Ant and Phil haven't seen any future episodes, but I have the knowledge to ruin their lives if I want to. But so you can rest assured that there'll be spoilers for episode 7 and all the previous episodes, but nothing ahead of time. So, I think without further ado, we'll get right into episode 7, Solace for Tired Feet. So we open with masses of posters of Gladys from the Guilty Remnant, if you've watched all the previous episodes, with a big message of save them underneath, and Laurie and the rest of the Guilty Remnant tear them down. Laurie then makes eye contact with Jill, who is hanging out with her fucking annoying friends who were in far too many episodes and far too much of this episode, but anyway, more on that a little bit later. And Laurie does allow herself to get kind of distracted by Jill. They have a bit of a lingering look. So again, as we've discussed in previous weeks, she's not fully in, no matter what she tells herself or other people, she's not fully in on the Guilty Remnant way of doing things.
With the GR, they are the epitome of they can dish it out, but they can't take it. They're fully okay stalking people, harassing people. A few posters up. Oh, let's go take them down. Can't handle it yet.
Can't handle it yet.
yeah, you're right. They can't. They get really upset about it, don't they? Considering they shouldn't care. They shouldn't care about these things anymore. I'm surprised how upset they got over it.
Yeah.
But I thought it was a fairly slow start to the episode, considering previous episodes we've had the opening scene, someone gets stoned, Gladys gets stoned to death. You had a police raid on a ranch. I was quite surprised at how slow paced this opening was.
Yeah, no, agreed. I think they're kind of sets their tone a little bit for the episode, and that isn't a really high octane, action-oriented episode, but there is quite a lot of character stuff in there, so like I said, it does kind of set the tone.
I suppose if they've got a fast start to every episode, then it kind of diminishes the impact, right? Yeah. So you've got to mix it up a bit, haven't
you? True.
I guess. I did like how she actually chucks away her fag after seeing Jill. Kind of. I did like that little bit of.
I'm a good mum, really.
Yeah, I'm a good mum, really. I don't want her seeing me smoking in front of her.
I missed that completely, to be fair.
Yeah, and she's also using matches, so she's clearly probably doesn't still have the lighter then.
Oh, that's a good catch. Okay. Or maybe it's just tucked away under a bed or something.
Possibly. She doesn't
she can't let everyone else see that she's got.
Well, actually, they don't have beds.
I was just going to say,
they don't have futons on the floor or something.
Yeah, they sleep on the sleeping bag on the floor.
Yeah. All right. Some good analysis off the bat here.
Oh. Some juicy meat to start for the boys.
So Jill and her stupid fucking friends are then all... and that's not just the twins, that's pretty much all of them, probably apart from Amy. Amy seems alright, but the rest of them can just go fuck themselves. Anyway, so they're all chilling in the park and locking each other in fucking a fridge, because of course they are. Why wouldn't you be? And I must say that I wish the twin that was in there suffocated in there for real and actually died. And so we'd never have to see him again. And then maybe the other one, will just leave as well, hopefully. Anyway, I feel like I'm getting sidetracked. So Jill then, kind of says to her friends that she can break the record that was set previously in some sort of myth, it seems like, and decides to get in the fridge, and obviously it's... She's locked in then.
So it's interesting, isn't it, how urban myths and conspiracies must have flourished during the departure, and this is one that these hedonistic teenagers are clearly going for. Jill was all confident going into the fridge, but she looked discontented when the door was about to close. Maybe a bit of last minute regret. I'm not sure really.
I mean, is it really a conspiracy theory if you just don't have any evidence for anything, really? You know, it's not like they've got, here's some hard and fast proof. It's really any theories as acceptable as others, like my theory on aliens. I'm fairly sure this is all aliens at this point.
Well, that's like most conspiracy theories, isn't it? Like, they're not exactly backed by a wealth of evidence.
Yeah, I mean, I was just, in the previous episodes with the protests, Nora's episode and the woman who breaks into the conference, there clearly are lots of conspiracies, and some of them might have a bit of evidence and some others, and it's the way that people twist evidence and stuff. It depends what you mean by evidence. It's like Bigfoot. There is a photo, but it's like a doctored photo,
Whoa. Don't go stepping on my Bigfoot dreams.
Let's not get down that rabbit hole. We know how much Phil loves talking about Bigfoot.
No, it's about the Loch Ness Monster these days, Sam. You should know that by now. Bigfoot's old news. One thing I think you will appreciate about the scene, Sam, is just how it proves how weak the twins are, being 30 minutes under the record. Considering the record's I think you say it's 42 minutes on the outside of the fridge. He was in there for 12 minutes before caving? Just so weak, so poor.
When one of those twins are in the fridge, they are just literally a waste of space, man. Honestly, it's a perfect visualization. Anyway, I really need to.
It's like Schrodinger's twin.
I really need to try stop getting hung up on these twins, man. I can't help it. Every time they come on the screen, my fist clenches. It's like,
have they wronged you in some way? Personally wronged you, Sam?
Just to add to the lore, I personally think they're really important, really interesting, and Sam's just sending us down the wrong street.
I mean, we can see that 7 episodes in that they've got a huge plot purpose. Anyway, let's move on. So we then cut to Kevin and Nora, who are actually post 5th date. You'd think it was the first one, but it's actually post 5th date. And she's looking, I think, a bit unsure, maybe a bit nervous, perhaps. And then she does invite Kevin back to her house. And I'd just like to think of her reaction when he pulls down his trousers and just sees what he's packing. I mean, will it be, I don't know, a bit of fear?
Trepidation.
I mean, I have heard, not that I have this problem, but I have heard that there is such a thing as being too big. But again, I don't have much experience with that.
Well, from experience, I'll tell
you. I was waiting for that.
Brilliant, Anne. Never stop being you, man. But I'd just like to say that in this scene, I think Kevin was actually pretty jokes reading that text out when he's saying, just going to go back and have sex with Nora.
Yeah, that was funny, wasn't it?
I like how he just, assumed, he...
Mate, he knew what was going to go down.
How the hell has Nora resisted for 4 full dates already?
I know. I fully expected them to have run away to Miami by now. She made the offer in the last episode. I'm surprised they've not gone.
I already had my custom Ray-Bans, in the shopping cart, all built, gold rims and everything, and I just haven't quite gone the whole hog. But it's saved on my Ray-Ban account, so I just need to, take the plunge.
So Jill then actually breaks the record of spending all that time in the fridge before stupid friends can't do literally anything right. As they try to let her out, they snap the fucking handle off the door. Just fucking idiots, man. Anyway, so and then Garvey Senior just pops up out of nowhere and saves the day as he then runs off in his dressing gown.
Yeah, I hated that claustrophobic scene in the fridge.
Yeah, I fully felt panicked by it. Really felt it.
It was weird, wasn't it, to see the grandpa out the blue. At first I thought, is it another dream sequence or something to do with another reality or dimension or something,
Yeah, same. I thought, so I was I was almost waiting to see fire or something like you see in all the other dreams, because that's exactly what I thought. I thought that she had actually passed out and that this was all a dream sequence.
Bit of divine intervention maybe, something a bit otherworldly perhaps, I don't know.
Possibly, yeah, possibly. Though, just to go back onto your favourite character, Sam.
Come on.
I did have to laugh when one of the twins was peeing and he had his trousers around his ankles, like a child. Like an absolute child. Back in reception, we have to you pull your trousers and your pants down to the urinal.
Oh, and then when we see him fucking play fighting later, I mean, come on.
Well, we don't want to give too much of the episode away.
Yeah, major spoilers.
Plot points, yeah.
So, with Tom and Christine, and she's burning up with what seems like a pretty bad fever, and we learn that Holy Wayne hasn't called them in, I think it's about 2 months, they say. But then he does, of course. And he's not doing so good, seemingly, and that's kind of shown when he's talking to Tom, and then he's like, who is this? He doesn't even know who he's actually called, and then kind of seems like he's seemingly forgotten Tom, and then like playing along. It's just very strange what's going on with him. But he wants to know how much money Tom's got left, and then he asks him to leave half of it as a dead drop. And we don't know why as of yet. Obviously, we'll find out a bit later. But then, as always, when he's talking to Tom, he's just only interested in if Tom's shagged Christine or not, and then he ends it very cryptically, because this is Holy Wayne, and he just says, it won't be long now, and then hangs up the phone.
Yeah, so when I was wondering if, like the porridge you see, because the first thing you see is like he's messing up making what seems like really basic porridge. Yeah. Like, what else has that man got going on? He's in like, looks like he's squatting somewhere.
Soup, I think it was, wasn't it?
Because it just looked a bit thicker than whatever it was. Looked vile. Like,
I think he literally says, "I brought you some soup."
Oh, does he? No, it looked thick and vile. That's all I'm going to say. But it just looked like, can he not even make soup? Is he just failing at this altogether? But what I did wonder, so this, when you see him kind of going Tom, trying to remember him, I'd wondered either that's a surprising power move for him to call him, and kind of go, oh, who's this? Power move and a half. But then I then thought, well, that's weird. I wonder if there's anyone else like Tom out there. So I thought that was quite. So I was there like, I wonder.
I think that would be the very astute viewer who would pick up on that from that little sign. But fair play, as we'll see later, that'll come back up.
Mm-hmm. And also, how does he know where they are? That was the other thing I didn't get, because he's like, oh, go to this street here, which you assume is relatively close. So how did Wayne know where they were?
Yeah, I thought that as well, because if he's not spoke to them in 2 months, and presumably they're maybe moving around in different places, it doesn't seem like there was a plan like go stay in this, in this building here. I thought that as well.
They go state to state, don't they? I think they're, from memory now, are they in Arizona at one point maybe? Are they in Indiana now or something?
Yeah, it's called Gary or something. Gary. I know the town's called Gary, but I can't remember where it's supposed to be.
Gary.
Yeah, no, right.
Yeah. So, I mean, is that evidence for Holy Wayne's supernatural powers? I mean, what other evidence is there to show that he was told where they are? He just says, oh, yeah, go to the chicken shop, or he knows the name of the street, doesn't he? And
yeah, exactly. So seems to know it quite well.
And he wouldn't have any sort of GPS technology on that little phone, unless he's linking up to a computer somehow, but... Yeah,
it doesn't look like Tom's got a big. Wayne's got a big supercomputer.
Well, there was the guy taking the PayPal payments. Maybe he moonlights as like
as a hacker.
Yeah. I'm picturing in Batman, kind of with what's the machine he sets up at the end.
I know what you mean. The one where he has to put in the Dark Knight when Lucius has to put his name in, and then it self-destructs.
I forget the name of it now.
Yeah, but that's what's kind of that's what I'm picturing now. Wayne just sitting there, kind of.
Holy Wayne is Bruce Wayne, confirmed.
There we go.
Is it the Bat computer or something? Wayne needs to learn some manners, doesn't he? Like, he's forgetting names. I mean, he's seen his own death, so he's clearly just like, you know what, I don't need to say please and thank you, and I can be a bit rude. Also, why does it really matter even if Tom has had sex with Christine, she's already pregnant? Is he just really possessive, or is there something else going on? Is it like some kind of spiritual connection with her? I don't know. Is it he doesn't want her contaminated or something?
I'd wondered if he was testing him. That's the only thing I could think of, if he's like been tempted by her or something. I think of.
I think if you're looking for like some sort of mystical explanation, then you could look at something like that. But this is The Leftovers, so it does always give you that kind of dichotomy of, could there be something more going on, or is he just a control freak, really weird guy? where it's all, this whole thing was only ever about just controlling people and having Asian girls there that you can have sex with and stuff. Like, so, you definitely can come to your own conclusions on that, but I know which side I fall down on.
Just another point, it seemed a bit strange, Tom looking in the store mirror. I did think, why is he just paranoid? Does he think someone's following him? Was there something else there? I don't know. Also, I'm not really sure if it's in this scene itself or if it's a bit later, but it's certainly interesting with Christine just reiterating that the baby's the bridge. And you think, well, what's it the bridge to? Is it another dimension? Is it saving Wayne? Is it... Oh, sorry, Holy Wayne. I can't use his full name. What's the deal there? And the feeding us bits and pieces, but it's almost like... It's like we're getting more pieces to the jigsaw, but the jigsaw's getting bigger. That's what it kind of feels like. It feels like we're not filling it in.
yeah, you're right.
Do you know, that metaphor there just completely... I know this is going to be well off topic, but just reminds me of the Game of Thrones book series, where it's like George just writes it, and he gives us a bit more, but then just he can't seem to start wrapping it up. It just gets bigger and bigger and bigger.
Start spiraling.
But anyway, this isn't the Game of Thrones podcast, so let's move on. So next we see Meg, and she's now full-on guilty remnant, full in white, and she's stalking Nora with someone else. Kevin tries to get them away so he can get in there and get to work, but Nora just sprays him down with a hose. And you know what? I bet Kevin, looking at that, he seemed a bit turned on by that.
Likes a woman that takes control.
Yeah, exactly. Fair play. But so once they're inside, they talk about how the guilty remnant have actually broke into lots of houses and stole photos of people who departed on that night of the dance a few episodes ago. And they kind of blame the guilty remnant for the killed chemistry between them. But I don't know, is it their fault, or is it maybe that they're just not compatible? So when they're not talking about their divorce or something else and they're just having a normal conversation, it seems a little bit forced, a little bit difficult.
I think it's probably a bit of both, to be honest with you. Like, they're obviously contributing towards it, but the fact that people are following them around and causing trouble definitely is a factor at play there. I do think as well, they've gone through a lot, right? Like, Nora's whole family have disappeared. I shouldn't be laughing, really.
I was just thinking.
She's got the situation with her brother, in debt when he was wanting to borrow money. I know he's fine now, but that must have been troubling as well. And the whole situation at the conference, and she's dealing with stuff, and she's only just been cleared of her pain by Wayne. And then Kevin, I could write an article on what he's going through at the moment. So probably just not used to the solace for tired feet. They're not used to that peace and quiet. So when they actually get it, I don't know. Maybe it's just natural.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's not natural because of that.
True. I mean, I thought initially I thought the first bit of the conversation seemed fine. So when you first see them go back inside and you see 2 beers on the counter, which obviously represents the 2% that have departed. Glad I could get that in there nice and early.
Ding.
Bingo. But the conversation at first seems it doesn't seem stilted. It seems like it's quite a normal, jokey conversation, as if they just moved past it. It didn't really go off a cliff until Nora starts talking about, what kind of mad person goes and joins the GR, and then goes, oh, your wife.
That's it. That's, isn't it? Because when you're kind of like looking at them two, and you think maybe if you both didn't have a history and weren't so like effed up in your own ways, then this could really work. But they are both just quite effed up, and it's difficult to try and move on from there, isn't it?
Yeah.
But so we'll see how that relationship goes.
I've got a funny feeling they're going to work things out.
I suspect you could. You know what? When I first saw Nora hosing down Meg, I genuinely initially thought, well, that's foreshadowing Kevin later on, isn't it? That's
the handling of his hose.
Yeah. That's literally, I saw it, it's like, well, that's foreshadowing, isn't it?
I mean, the viewers, the listeners, sorry, they all know what's happening later, so we can drop a few things that happen later in the episode,
Yeah.
Well, and when you said, I've got a funny feeling that they're going to work things out, this isn't a spoiler, this isn't anything, but after episode 28, so the last episode, season 3, let's revisit that question and see how you feel about it. So Jill then asks her dad what Garvey Senior actually did to end up in hospital, and then tells Kevin that he's escaped. And Kevin seems uncomfortable when talking about his dad, and perhaps he's recognising the same patterns in himself, because there would have been that early phase for Garvey Senior, like Kevin, when he's kind of in between the madness and the normality, as you could say Kevin is now. But so as Kevin waits at home, then waiting for news on his dad, he hears a dog whimpering at the door, and then when he opens the door, it turns out that the dog killer has trapped one in a postal box because, this is the leftovers. But then as Kevin then walks out, he sees Laurie's dead body in the dog killer's truck, and even on rewatch, just for a second, I was like, "Hold on, I don't remember this." And no way, of course, no. It turns out to be another one of Ant's favourite dream sequences.
Yeah, they are growing on me a little bit. They do give a lot of themes and imagery to go off, don't they? I thought that the static on the radios, I think it was actually, kind of. You can draw a comparison to what's going on in Kevin's mind at the moment, a bit all over the place. And I think you hear Cairo being mentioned as well, which I thought was a bit bizarre. So, yeah.
The thing with the dream sequences, I still, part of me can't accept that the dog killer is a real person, because it's like the dog killer gives him the gun. You don't really see him in any. You don't tend to see him.
Mate, it's Dean.
Again. Dean, you know what? I can't. I keep seeing it and thinking, are we sure it's not just him projecting something or seeing something else, and that it's a red herring or something? I can't.
No, there was someone who saw him though and said, "Oh, hi, Dean." When they're in the woods. So. Yeah. Pretty strong evidence, right?
But that is the thing with this program, isn't it? There is still obviously something really strange going on, and so you're left with the question. There's three kind of possibilities. There's either nothing going on, and we're just projecting as an audience. Kevin is just completely projecting onto this new guy, onto this like random guy, something weird going on, or there is something a bit weird going on, and they're all pretty decent answers. There's not one that clearly says, no, this is definitely the right thing, because there is definitely something strange going on with him.
Well, it's better to have a show that makes you ask these questions rather than something that spoon feeds you everything. Some basic show.
Yeah.
So you don't want everything wrapped up, do you? By the end.
Exactly.
I wouldn't mind some answers at this point. Just.
Sorry, Phil. Carry on.
No, I was going to say, literally nothing has been answered so far. I know nothing more than I knew at the start of this programme.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I do think, is there a sort... It's probably way over-analysing stuff. So, shoot me down if this is wrong. But, Kevin's dreaming about a post box, or the dog being trapped in the post box, and then Tom is strapping money to the other... to the bottom of a post box. So I do think... Is there some sort of weird link there, or is it just coincidence?
I think there must. You're right. I think there must be a link there or something. Because it is. Because I had wondered about, even though he's not spoken to him, it just seemed, because he has no other reference point to the letterbox, does he? The letterbox isn't brought up again in the episode for Kevin. It is for Tom, but not Kevin.
Sure. Yeah. That's
so
right.
The odds of it being, that he just happens to dream about a letterbox, with there being no link to Tom, seems really, really minute, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think if anything, it's probably just the script writers just trying to link them two back together. So whilst there might not be a literal link between the two post boxes, obviously just a theme of sorts, just to keep it in your mind that obviously that they are related, because it'd be easy to forget it, to be fair, watching this, because Tom's plot is so separate to Kevin's.
Yeah,
sure. And then obviously you got the link between the the trapped space, confined space of the fridge, and then the dog being trapped as well. There's a bit of a link there. And seeing Laurie in the truck dead with all the other Guilty Remnant members, I initially thought, or drew comparisons to them finding all of the dummies, in the middle of the desert when Tom and Christine and the coach crew find them all.
See, I was thinking. I can see where you're coming from. I was thinking more around the, the crematorium. So they, they were burning all the bodies. I was thinking more along those lines, but I can see what you mean with the link. That's what I was thinking about at the time. Just like putting the bag over their heads and things like that.
Well, talking about the links, so with Dean, we call him the dog killer, and that's what we kind of know him for. But there is obviously that question, because the only thing that we know for sure is that other people have seen Kevin killing dogs. Not this guy necessarily. So maybe he actually hasn't done anything like that, and Kevin's projecting the whole dog killer thing onto him. And so the fact that Kevin's now projecting it moving from dogs onto the guilty remnant maybe is more of a reflection on what's going on in Kevin's mind than actually anything to do with the dog killer or Dean. Again, it's one of them with this program that you feel like there's maybe something there, but it's really not sure. You feel like you kind of when you're trying to grasp something through like a little hole and you just can't grab it.
Yeah, you just can't quite get it. Yeah.
That sounds like really inappropriate.
Bit too sexual, Sam. Let's keep it PG, yeah.
Yeah, let's just swiftly move on. That was a really, really bad metaphor. just all round shit. Anyway, so it turns out that Kevin is seemingly kind of attempted to tame a rabid dog, and he's got a big bite on his hand for his troubles, and he's now got the dog roped up in the garden, as you do.
Right, what I will say is the bite on his hand does not look like a dog bite.
It looked human, didn't it?
Yeah.
It looked like a human bite.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'd probably have to watch it again, but maybe someone else bit him, whether that be Dean or someone else, who knows. It could be Holy Wayne at this point. I really don't know.
Could be the twins at this point.
I was thinking more the stag at this point, but
I think I'm more confused than Kevin at this point,
It seems weird that Amy's, because the first person he sees is Amy. Oh no, he sees Jill and Amy, doesn't he, trying to work out what's happened, so he's clearly forgotten about the night before. But it seems weird that Amy's either in the dream, has been in all of his dreams so far, or kind of is at least aware of, other things going on. So how much does Amy actually know? Is she aware of something that we're not?
There's something there, isn't there?
Yeah.
There is definitely something to watch there. That's gonna blossom over the next few episodes for sure. There's going to be some sort of interaction. Might not be sexual, but who knows?
Yeah.
I think the sexual thing is just that's what they're trying to make you think in the first episode, and that's like quite an obvious thing to think. But like for me, what I always think about with Amy is that she always seems to know more than like all the other people around. Like even when she's talking to Jill about Nora in the second episode, she kind of correctly infers what Nora might be feeling, and she always seems to know more than Kevin on what's going on. I don't know if she's just more observant and not so self-centered, but again, it might be nothing, but she does always seem to kind of have a better idea of what's going on than everyone else. But so next we see that Dennis, one of the named police officers, the few named police officers that we get, has been attacked by Garvey Sr. and been pretty badly beaten up, to be fair, in a library. And earlier we learned that Garvey Sr. actually burnt down a library when he first started going a bit mental, and he's absolutely trashed the place after the worker in the library wouldn't lend him $200, and he said that he needed it for his son, and we'll kind of find out later what that's all about.
What did you notice? I know it's quite, this bloke's been beaten up and it's supposed to be quite a serious bit of the scene of the episode. But did you notice when he walks into the library, there's like a little poster down on the left of the screen, and to me it looked like a bad cartoon drawing of Gladys, but with like a little speech bubble, because it's the characters in white and also saying all are welcome, but we use our inside voices here. So
I did think, why did he attack the library? Did he attack the library after he was refused the money, or was he attacking, ripping down the library and just destroying it anyway, and then he asked for the money after? Because it seemed like he was searching.
The guy says that he was trying to use the computer first, wasn't he? He says he was on the computer, and then he broke the computer, and then he asked for the money, and then he went wild after he didn't get the money. That's what I assume he's a caretaker, the Spanish bloke says.
So he's trying to find the magazine, right? That's what he's trying to find.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly, yeah.
Okay.
But why did he burn it down before? Does it ever indicate why he burnt it down before?
No.
Maybe he's just looking. Maybe just doesn't like libraries. I really don't know.
So Tom then goes and places the dead drop as requested by Holy Wayne, and he does it so inconspicuously by sprinting back and forth to this post
Wasn't very
box.
smooth, was it? There was no Tom Clancy Splinter Cell there.
Not at all. Literally, just get up, fucking run back. But so like he gets back in his car, and you're thinking, okay, he's going to drive away, and that'll be it. But instead, he just holds back, and he just waits to see what happens. He's clearly a bit disillusioned with what's going on, and he wants to know who's fucking picking up this money. So,
so I thought this here was where, because when I noticed why mailboxes, because of Kevin's dream, and why is Tommy now seeing one. But when the car pulled up, it's the same car that Holy Wayne had when he sees him outside the gas station in episode 2? So I initially thought this was going to be fully for Holy Wayne, because I thought, it's Holy Wayne's car.
Oh wow!
yeah, you're
I didn't know
expecting him to rock up.
Yeah.
So this other guy basically gets free money and a car, and then Tom gets nothing.
Well, Tom did get. Well, to be fair, Tom was given the money in the first place, wasn't it? It's not Tom's money; it's Holy Wayne's money.
Yeah, but the other guy got money. He's just burning through it, right?
Yeah,
So
I mean,
you presume everyone got the same, but the other guy's getting a slice of Tom's and a car.
the story of this guy and Tom just shows that if you do the right thing, the right thing. Not saying that what Tom's doing is morally right, but he's following his instructions and whatever. Don't get you nowhere. Just burn through all your cash and just take some off someone else. It's fine. Don't worry about it.
Develop a coke habit.
It was interesting to see he was going to just drive away and go back to Christine, and then it was like, actually, I want to see what's going on. He's rebelling a bit now. He's pushing back. It's been months, hasn't it? I mean, you think you're on the run. You don't have information. You don't have that security there. Things will go wrong. It's going to wear you down. You think it won't, but it's not as if it's doing it for his benefit. He's just, he's doing it for someone he barely knows, really, isn't he? So it's interesting.
I think that brings up a good point about Tom's whole story, to be fair, because I know we kind of had a little debate in the last episode about whether he really believes in Holy Wayne and if anyone really believes in Holy Wayne. Because, even when he's talking to the guy later and he says, like, oh, yeah, did he hug you? I can't do an Irish accent. But, even the guy that's kind of claiming that it's true is, just done 2 lines of coke, so he's not the best source. But I think it's kind of a bit of a criticism of Tom's storyline as a whole. It's kind of like the whole justification for him doing this, they kind of mention earlier on in the season, is that he's in the moody, teenager / just post-teenager, early 20s kind of phase, whatever, and he's run away. But we don't actually know why he's doing any of this. And we're 7 episodes in now, and there's not even any hints of it, and it just... part of a good story is the motivation, and I'm just not really getting that for Tom at all.
I presumed it was just always just doing the right thing and looking after Christine.
I always presumed that it was something that was going to be explained later on. For instance, with the because we know Kevin's not his real dad, and we know that Tom is aware of Tom knows that Kevin's not his real dad, and that I think we discussed if his biological father has disappeared or not, or I think we discussed it. I don't know if we agreed that it had happened or if it was just...
Well, he has. Well, I don't know if he's departed or not, but Kevin's not his biological dad, right?
Yeah.
We know that at this stage.
Yeah, we don't know if he's departed or not, though. Yeah,
okay.
That's kind of what Phil's saying. So then we see Garvey Sr. in the... Is it back garden? It's towards the back door, isn't it, where the dog is? And he's kind of let me start again. And he's kind of tussling with the dog over his shirt, and then Jill kind of goes out and talks to him and invites him in for some food, and her granddad then asks her for $200, just like the guy in the library said, and then he gets some of Kevin's pills for the dog, and we see just how many meds Kevin is taking. I mean, he's dosing up a lot. And they kind of touch on this later a little bit, I feel, but there is the question in my mind of, well, are these meds helping Kevin and keeping him from the insanity, or are they kind of pushing him towards it, as his dad kind of suggests later on? Don't know, make your own minds up about that. Maybe let us know what you think. But so Kevin then arrives home as Jill and her granddad are upstairs, and she tells him that she actually called Kevin back before she let him in. And I quite like Garvey Senior's reaction of just saying, good girl. And then Jill just finds a little note in Kevin's bed. And more on that a bit later. So Kevin's then driving his dad back to the psychiatric unit, or whatever exactly it is. But as they kind of arrive at a guilty remnant picket, which Kevin doesn't even seem to notice, Garvey Senior just completely busts out and just runs away right through the crowd. And Kevin is chasing after him, and then he knocks down Patty in the process of going after him.
There's certainly weird and entertaining scenes so far with Garvey Senior, aren't there? You know, with him saving Jill from the fridge, and then him on the run during this bit. You know, doesn't really have a dull moment. So he's already one of my favourite characters. Well, 7 episodes in, it's not already, I guess, but you know what I mean. You do think the voices in his head, are they telling him to run? Did they tell him to save Jill? Is there something going on there? Again, it's probably not going to be answered as it sounds, so I can only speculate to myself, really, kind of. And, you know, are the voices in his head anything to do with the departure? Or I think where I'm going now, the camp I'm in, is that he's got some sort of connection to the same bridge that Christine's referring to, that her baby will be able to contact. So I think there's definitely something off to the side, if you like, that is influencing this world, and Garvey Senior's got a kind of a look in, if you like. So for us, if you like, for Kevin and everyone else in the world, they just see it as a mental illness. But perhaps with Garvey Senior, it's the connection to something otherworldly.
Mm. You're right. I think they are tapping into the same thing, because so you know when earlier on in the scene when you see Christine's having a bit of a fever. Christine's, and she's like talking about spiders underwater.
Yeah.
So I actually because of the magazine they discussed later on in the episode, I actually looked up what's in that magazine.
Yeah.
And there's actually an article about spiders that can breathe underwater. So you're right, there is a link there.
Yeah.
That is some extracurricular research there.
That you just got to go the extra mile on these things.
Phil is putting in those hours.
It takes me a while, but I struggle to read. But I was there like, what's this all about? Because I initially started googling, well, what happened in May 1972, and then weirdly the first thing that came up was the National Geographic magazine. So I was like, oh right, I'm not the only person to look this up, and then started flicking through it. So yeah, just a little thing to say that I think they are, whatever it is, they are tapping into the same source.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
So, what I liked about the scene is I like how Garvey Senior just disappears, kind of completely. Considering you're trying to follow a man in like a blue. Is he wearing a dressing gown, or is it a dressing gown or a shirt?
He's wearing Kevin's jumper at this point.
Blue, which I think Ant you raise later on. But I like how he disappears. Yeah, I know, right? It's like I know. I like how he just disappears, but I like when he, after knocking down Patty, and you have Laurie and Meg helping Patty up. I like the fact he doesn't even register Laurie being there, does he? Like, he doesn't even look at her, acknowledge her. Just completely seems to miss the fact she's there, which in the past he's never done before. He's always kind of fixated on her when she's in the scene.
I don't know, man. Like, I don't know.
I think he's trying to add the man, isn't he, a little bit?
Well, I don't know if I read it as like, oh, he doesn't register that he's even there. But at this point, he's got the divorce. He's seeing Nora, and he's just like fucking trying to move on or something, or just
exactly.
Like,
what's he going to do? Go over and strike her up a conversation?
He can try,
On this scene, for me, I felt like it was a bigger scene than it probably first meets the eye. I think when Kevin's going after his dad, there's that moment when he's running downhill, isn't he? And I think he's already gone through the GR at that point, and he's at almost like a crossroads, a junction, if you like. And then the music swells in, and it felt almost like there was a bit of a religious experience to it, perhaps.
Mm-hmm.
So again, I'm not sure what it means. I don't know if it's that whole, I don't know, self-discovery or other universe stuff. I really don't know, but I thought it was quite a profound moment. And then also, just a really minor point, it did look like Laurie was breaking into a bit of a smile. I don't know when Patty got knocked down. It's probably nothing, but I thought that was quite funny to watch.
Okay, so I didn't get that smile. I just thought she looked a bit annoyed. You know that he was ignoring her. You know, playing at me, keeping her keen.
So all three of them, Meg, Laurie, Patty, they all turn around and give Kevin just the absolute evilest of eyes. Like, if he doesn't feel that burning in the back of his head.
I'm gonna have to rewatch and just make sure that my points are actually good.
So then Jill's then got the twins over, and Amy's there as well. And again, as we said earlier, they're play fighting like literal fucking children. And I just want to take this moment just to, because I know I kind of say things, you know, maybe offhandedly about the twins and, you know, have a go at them quite a bit. But I just want to take this moment just to set the record straight. And I just really want to say that, like, with all my heart, just fuck those guys. They've got no plot purpose and they're not funny.
You know what, Sam? You're wrong, and I'll tell you why you're wrong. Because this is a fairly depressing show with mystical overtones, and they are the comic relief we need.
Their childlike wonder, Sam, is clearly representing how all happiness hasn't departed from this world.
And for someone who doesn't like them, you'd say an awful lot about them.
Yeah, I know. Methinks the Sam doth protest too much, you know? I think, I reckon they're really important to the plot later on, aren't they, Sam? You're just gaslighting us.
I mean, to be fair, you know, two twins wrestling, it's like they're wrestling with their own demons, and there's two of them linked with the 2%. There's something going on there, Sam. You just don't want to admit it, do you?
Shut up, Anne.
And I'm fully with you on this one. Fully with you.
That's
Sam
2 versus 1. Basic maths. Bye, Sam.
Mate, it's not like that when we're playing squash and me and Phil both insist on something and you're just like, nope.
It's the finger wag. That's what I always look forward to. It's the finger wag. That's what I know. We're in for it.
You know, I fight for justice. That's all I'm saying.
So Tom then waits and he sees who picks up the cash and follows them to a motel, and it turns out that there is another guy and he's looking after another pregnant Asian girl. And Christine, you know, this whole time she thought she was special, she thought she was the one, but at least in Holy Wayne's eyes, seemingly, she isn't.
Yeah, she's not. But so when he follows him in the car again, at this point I was certain he was going to see He was going to be Holy Wayne because of the car, and you see that Holy Wayne looks earlier on in the episode seems to be in a bit of he appears to be squatting, I assumed, or like in a really cheap motel. So I was fully convinced he was about to bump into Wayne inside that building. But did you notice that this pregnant woman was wearing the same clothes, identical as, not just colour-wise, but identical clothing to Christine?
Never actually picked that up in watching it, but
yeah, if you watch
I believe you.
Yeah, thank you, Sam. I'm touched by your trust. But yeah, so I was like, oh, they're wearing. That's the first thing I noticed. Like, other than it's another pregnant woman. It was she's wearing the same clothes as Christine.
Well, that's, you know, the kind of points that, you know, our listeners are tuning in for. You know, so you're either, again, you're going to double down on a great point, or it's going to be totally wrong, and you're going to crash and burn. We'll see, won't we?
We're going to see if Sam's third watch of this program, you know, still not seeing.
I mean, it's just embarrassing, isn't it? 3 times, and he's not. I mean, come on.
But thing is, my question is, does anybody actually even fact check Phil? He could say anything.
I will fact check him.
You'll fact check me, will you?
Yeah, I'm going to fact check you.
You're going to fact check me? What?
Well, yeah, no, because I'm genuinely interested if the poster thing
on my weight
the clothes are real. I said fact check. Anyway,
I heard fat twice, to be clear.
Well, you hear what you want to hear. This is the thing. What confuses me, right? And I might be totally wrong on this, but at the ranch, right, the one that gets totally blown away by the squad, are they FBI or CIA? Whatever.
The feds. The feds.
Yeah, you call them the feds. Yeah.
So there's multiple Asian girls there, right?
Yep.
And at this stage, like, Christine's pregnant, right?
Yep.
And none of the other girls are aware they're pregnant, or they all think they're individually special. It just seems a bit weird that none of them know that there's other girls just like them out there.
This is the thing with the whole Holy Wayne thing, whereas there is like lots of interesting kind of like mystical stuff going on, but is it really, or is it psychology? All the stuff we've discussed before. But when you actually do drill down to the actual things, there's a lot of stuff that isn't well explained, and there is a lot of stuff that you have to kind of just like hand wave a little bit and just be like, oh no, sure, that makes sense, when actually it doesn't. That's why it's kind of not my favourite part of this series, I must say.
Because I was fully under the presumption that the girls knew that there were other girls, but they all think they're special. I had no idea that they individually thought they were the only one. But again, like you said, Sam, it's just there's too much to infer and trying to guess too much. So.
Yeah, because we don't get the explanation why. It's just that Christine, I think, just says in one episode that like he told me I was special, or that I am the one, or he says that Tom, this girl's special. Just like one-line things that you're then meant to be like, okay, this is why these people are living their lives like this. I don't know, it's a bit too much of a leap for me.
Yeah. I fully bought into the fact, up until the start of this episode, fully bought into the idea that Christine was special, that she was the only one, and they're the only couple, if that makes sense, currently travelling around at the moment. I assumed everyone else had been arrested or shot back on the ranch. So, fully didn't see this coming until earlier on.
Yeah, but I think that's one of them that if you was to go back and rewatch it, you'd kick yourself almost for being like, oh wait, but of course, there was loads of them there. But yeah. But so back at Kevin's house, Amy's just chilling there all by herself. I think she's having, was it cereal or was it ice cream? She's having a bowl of something. And she...
Was it soup?
I don't think it was soup, to be fair.
To link to...
the linking with Tom. No. But she knows that Kevin doesn't remember what's happened the night before. Like, again, she seems to have more knowledge than anyone else that's kind of in these situations, and definitely more than Kevin all the time. But again, there's no kind of point being made there. It's just something that you kind of notice upon watching it. But so Kevin then heads upstairs, and then after the advice from his dad in the car about all of his medications, about how they'll fuck him up, he just tosses all of his meds, and again, fucking hell, he's got a lot.
Yeah. I was surprised how... Well, Kevin came in quite threatening to me in this scene. So when he's talking to Amy, it's like, we really like having you here. Do you enjoy being here? But it's not so much a genuine question as much. I took it as like an inferred threat.
Yeah,
because
even if it's not like an imminent physical threat, it's that kind of like overarching, like, you're in my house, you know, I'll kick you out.
She's there a lot, to be fair.
Yeah, but she sleeps. So I assume she just lives there, actually, to be honest, because she never refers to her parents, her family, or anything, and she's always there, always sleeping over.
Yeah. For me, I don't think it came across like ultra kind of threatening. I don't think his heart was in the threat or the desire to come across overly sarcastic. I thought it was more of he's just dealing with a lot, and it's just a way of venting, really. I don't know. I kind of disagree with you guys on that point.
I certainly don't think a physical threat. Like, I'm not saying like he would have gone over or like physically threatened him. It just felt like it just kind of felt more like, you know, well, exactly as Sam said, this is my house, and don't kind of start encroaching on things that he's very clearly very defensive about, like his mental health, the fact he can't recall what happened the night before. You know, he refused to admit that he can't remember, for example, what happened the night before, whereas Amy appears to know what's happening.
I mean, it opens a hell of a lot of doors when the main character can't remember what's happening for, like, you know, a good portion of each day, presumably. I mean, there's going to be so much to come, isn't there, over the next few episodes, where it's like, oh, that happened, that didn't really happen, and I don't know, confuses things a bit, doesn't it?
Man like Kev Dog is all over the place. But so anyway, he comes across in the garden the jar that was filled with money that Matt used in episode 3 to then take over to the casino, and he heads right over to Matt's to confront him about it. And we see, just coincidentally, that Matt is indeed responsible for the Gladys posters we saw at the start, if anyone was doubting that at all. But Matt's not there. But Kevin uses what's she called? Is it Maria? I can't remember, the lady who takes care of Mary. He uses her phone to call Matt, and Matt says that Garvey Senior is, quote, almost ready to see, unquote, Kevin, and he tells Kevin to meet them at a diner. And then Kevin, being the smashing guy that he is, just smashes the care lady's phone. Just fucking brilliant, Kevin. Brilliant.
Yeah, it's him abusing his powers as the police officer again. You know, so breaking a mobile phone, knowing that she can't really do anything about it. And, you know, he overuses his power in other episodes, doesn't he? So the one where he arrests the GR outside. Is it the school, I want to say?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So he's, you know, just more evidence that he's losing it. And it's also clear to see where Matt's been investing his money, you know, in the printing game.
I'm glad to know. I had wondered what happened with that. Is it 120,000 that he wins? Yeah, I did wonder where that had gone. So
but
money well
he's
spent.
He's investing in a dying industry.
What, keeping Staples up and running?
Hopefully he's been, using Dunder Mifflin for all his support. Dunder Mifflin, people's persons, paper people. Anyway.
I was surprised by it because Matt initially, does he lie to Kevin about being with his dad? Or he kind of tries to distract it. He says something on the phone that made me think, oh, why did he lie to Kevin about being with his dad at first?
Yeah, it's definitely not forthcoming.
So. Yeah, and I was surprised by that because have we seen Matt lie before or willingly try and... Because I thought that was one of the things with Matt is that he doesn't lie. He almost can't read other people and just kind of gives what he thinks is the truth.
When he's definitely not whiter than white, is he, morally? You know, when he's...
No.
Using underhand tactics with Nora and, you know, bringing up things that shouldn't be brought up. So, yeah, it did definitely make me wonder, is there something more than meets the eye between Matt and Garvey Senior's relationship? Why is he so keen on defending him, you know?
I think the thing is with Matt is that, you know, you see all his good qualities, say, in his episode 3, and you think, this seems like a really good guy, but he seems like, if he believes in something, even if it's wrong, but he'll willingly, you know, lie to people, you know, kind of betray Nora and potentially do other things to kind of do what he thinks is right, but he'll do bad things along the way. Which is something that when people really fervently believe in something, whether it be religion or, you know, any kind of thing that people get passionate about, it can lead you to do bad things along the way of trying to achieve those things. So that's just a little observation from me there, a little treat for you.
Oh.
But so back with Tom, and it turns out the guy that's, you know, air quotes, looking after the other pregnant girl, who I don't think is named, I don't think either of them are, is it turns out this guy is doing drugs on the reg, so we just see just how he's been pissing away all of his share of the money. And they discuss how Holy Wayne told both the guys just exactly the same thing about this girl is special and all this kind of thing, and then the girl that they're there with just does not take it very well, perhaps unsurprisingly. That's not a reflection on her, just, you know, because if you genuinely believe this stuff and then your whole world just came crashing down, you're not going to take it particularly well. And she reacts by starting to just indiscriminately fire a pistol in the little motel room, and then just breaks down crying.
Yeah, it's again, it's hard to believe that none of the Asian women, I presume there's more than just the two of them you see in detail so far, exist. You know, there's got to be more. So kind of when it's one of them, like, she's shooting him, and like it's a way over the top reaction, but you kind of know Tom's not going to die, so you don't really feel like there's a threat there, in terms of the story. And then, I just find it a little bit preposterous, to be honest with you. But what I do find interesting on the flip side is that, she's talking about he's the bridge, and I'm just going to be really interested to see how that develops, because I hope it's going to be a bridge to another world or something. I have a feeling, though, it's just going to be something Holy Wayne said to fulfill his sexual desires and his genetic purpose, to evolutionary purpose to procreate, and it's going to come to nothing. But I've got my fingers crossed for the former.
I'm trying to remember if Christine said the same thing, that he'll be the bridge between worlds. Was that something Christine says as well?
I think that's in a previous episode. It's either in this episode or it's in a previous one. It's definitely mentioned.
Yeah, it's quite interesting that she quite clearly focuses on, he will be the bridge between the worlds.
Does she say between the worlds or just the bridge?
He's the bridge, I think.
He's the bridge. Sorry, sorry. It's the fact that she states he's the bridge, and she quite definitely states he. A bit more foreshadowing. But what I also liked about this is it shows how Holy Wayne doesn't really heal people, like with his hugs and things, because this man is still a drug addict. He's still he does not strike me as a man who's been healed of anything other than seems just be quite happy and complacent in becoming a drug addict.
Mm-hmm.
So I was
that's a good point.
Surprised by that. So I was like, so whatever you think Holy Wayne does actually do, this is a bit of evidence of that. It doesn't actually. It's all a placebo effect. It's what people want to see, and they just become quite accepting of the situation that they find themselves in.
Yeah, absolutely.
What I did wonder though here was because. So a little while I was trying to think about you find a body at the petrol station in the second episode.
The guy kisses.
Yeah, the guy kisses, and I'd wonder. Do you remember? Do we know how old that person looked? Did he seem to be the same age as Tom and this man?
Oh, I can't remember, man. I can't remember.
Because I was starting to wonder if that may have been someone, for example, that didn't agree to help Wayne by taking someone somewhere. Does that make sense? If that man he shot was someone who would have been like Tom or like this bloke, but didn't agree to go.
Yeah, it's not explained how he dies, right?
I think he's been shot, hasn't he? I thought.
Yeah, but what's the situation? I'm trying to think.
Yeah, there's nothing else surrounding his death other than the fact that he finds a body in a petrol station that looks relatively fresh. And you're right, there doesn't seem to be signs of a gunfight happening or anything. All you see is that he's been shot. I think he's been shot once or something. I struggle to recall. So I wondered, I don't know if we'll ever find out any more information or if this is just another question left to us.
What does your heart tell you, Phil?
My heart tells me, Sam, that I am going to go... that when this series ends, I will not get the answers that I'm looking for, and that I will become a rambling mess.
I think it's wise to prepare yourself for that eventuality. I must say. So quite a key scene comes next. I always note when it comes to these key scenes, because my points in the doc go from like 3 lines per scene to about 10 lines for a scene. So let's get right into it. So Kevin meets Matt and Garvey Sr. at the diner as planned, and his dad tells him that he tried to keep him out of things, but, quote, they wouldn't stop. And so Garvey Sr. then pulls out, as we mentioned earlier, the National Geographic magazine from May 1972. And I remember watching this for the first time, just being like, what the fuck's that got to do with anything? Like, come on, this, when you, like you said, when you want to start getting answers, and then it just throws up something completely random like that, and you're just like, oh, just go fuck yourself.
They wanted to get commissioned for season 2, didn't they?
Yeah, product placement. But so Garvey Sr. says that he needs Kev to take it, but then he kind of corrects himself, or actually the voices in his head, maybe, or maybe they're there, who knows. They correct him and they say that Kevin needs to, quote, accept it. And Garvey Sr. once again insists to Kevin that he isn't crazy and that these voices do speak the truth. and he tells Kevin that his services have been requested in the game, a game that started 3 years ago with the departure. Okay, you got me interested. Now give us some more information. No, that's not forthcoming.
Shut down.
This is the leftovers after all. So Kevin just rejects his dad and just says that he left him when he needed him most, and he's now trying to infect him. And the way that Justin Theroux emphasises that infect him, like, quite subtle bit of acting, but I've really, really noticed that, and I was like, oh, okay, little bit of shivers. And then Garvey Sr., of course, just reacts just by hitting him, like any good dad does. And he says that Kevin knows that he's right. And he says that everyone else is asleep and they all need to wake up.
Yeah, there's like about 3 different ways you can approach this, isn't it? It's Kevin's totally right and Garvey Sr. has just got a mental illness, or they've both, got a mental illness, or... well, Kevin's right, and Garvey Sr. can see into another dimension, or there's something otherworldly there, like I mentioned earlier. Like you say, Sam, like you want some answers, and the magazine comes out, but it's interesting to see the link there, with the underwater spiders and all that, and I'm all for it, to be honest with you.
I'm more just kind of making the point that I have no answers of anything at this point. I don't know if I should buy into that he's going... that actually they're all just descending into some kind of madness, if this is the religious rapture, if it's some kind of mad government conspiracy that everyone's missing, or if it is literally aliens at this point.
I suppose that is an interesting point, isn't it? Because, part of what you just said, not the alien bit, but the government conspiracy, because there is an element to it, isn't there? With the incinerators and the Gladys's body being... shipped off quite sharpish and cremated quite early on, and what the woman's saying at the conference about the government conspiracy and the death ray and everything. So there is something there, another angle, government conspiracy, just to mix things up a bit more.
The thing is, that's what they do on this programme, isn't it? They'll give you the idea of like a government conspiracy, and the thing with Agent Killaney in the previous episode, or a couple of episodes ago, and they'll show you something that makes it seem quite compelling, and then not talk about it again.
Yes.
And you're just like, well, if you're going to go that way, it's like really good in one way, because it, can lead to a podcast like this and lots of theories and that kind of thing. But then in another way, you're like, okay, is it getting a bit much now? I'm not sure.
Yeah, considering the points that Phil and I have discovered just by watching it, I'm pretty sure we're going to answer all these questions for you, Sam. Just give us the full, the full 3 seasons. I'm going to keep my eyes peeled for any nature-based, clues, anything to do with geography there. And the otherworldly stuff. Phil's going to keep a lookout for, like posters and things. Sam, you keep plugging away. We'll do it. We'll do it.
Do you know what I would genuinely love? That when this podcast is over, or not even the whole podcast, maybe even just when season 1 is over, we'll record a 5-minute special of Ant just like summing up the whole of season 1 and giving his like main theories.
I'm prepared.
And then we can play that back after season 3 and say, go for it.
Have you ever heard of Cassette Boy? It's like a YouTuber, and basically takes political speeches and he splices them up, and it just says a totally different message. There's loads of things like that on the internet. I have got all the recordings of you guys, so I can just put together virtually anything I want you to say. You'll be listening back to it and think, I didn't say that. You're right, you didn't.
That's reassuring. It's good to know that Ant's planning to fully forge what we've been saying.
Phil's a racist. What?
When did that come in? Yeah.
Fucking rolling by fear. It's always a good motivator. But so
I've got the originals though, so it's fine.
Right. So just a little observation from me, if you guys will, allow me the floor for a second or two. So obviously this is a program that we're watching, and so it means that we have to take stock of things that are said by the characters, because, if you were out on the street and you heard someone talking about, we all need to wake up, you'd literally just think, they're not thinking straight, and then just move on. But like I say, because this is a program with mystical elements and all that kind of thing, we have to at least consider the possibility that, there is some truth in it. But what I just wanted to say about Kevin, because, don't get me wrong, he's got a lot of faults, as we've seen in this episode, smashing Mary's carer's phone, and in previous episodes abusing his power as a policeman, and having a go at people, and all the things that we've discussed in previous episodes. But just imagine the real pain that you would be going through if your dad in real life, like I say, it's not a TV program where you're putting together theories, but just your dad was losing his grip like Garvey Senior is, and you're having to restrain him in restaurants, and he's talking to voices and everything, and even just that on its own will be something that's so tough to deal with. And Kevin's got that, and then he's got Laurie, who's left him for the guilty remnant, and then he's got his difficulties with Jill, and then the fact that Tom's off doing God knows what and he can't get in touch with him, and he really, really just has so much to deal with. And I think you do have to kind of contextualise that with his faults, which, like I say, I want to emphasise, of course, there are many things he does that are, not defensible. But like I say, I do think, context is key. So I just wanted to make that little point about Kevin. So thank you very much for that, guys.
Thanks, Sam. Thank you.
Let's get back to our normal broadcast. So Kevin takes Garvey Senior back to the psychiatric ward, and he turns around and gives him a big hug, and he whispers in his ear, quote, "They're not going to let you off that easy, son." Oh, that's a bit ominous, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a lot to ponder over, isn't it? I'm more and more thinking there is a they, not just voices as a result of a chemical imbalance in Garvey Senior's brain, resulting in a mental illness. I'm thinking there is a they. Not sure what they is at the moment or who they are, but I'm in that camp. I think I'll take convincing out of the camp.
I mean, I think I agree. I think there is a they, and I think we already know what my theory on that is, so we'll move on from it before...
Don't say it.
Don't say it.
Yeah. So Kevin then heads right over to Nora's, and I tell you what, she's in... we've had hints about Kevin's, good dick, and we're going to see it in action now. Unfortunately, not literally, but... Nora's going to get a bit of that good dick action, and the one thing I would say is that at points, and particularly as they're just kind of starting, Kevin does look uncomfortable at certain points afterwards, and then as they're about to really get going, he looks like he's definitely got some doubts going through his mind, but he gets on with it, and I'm sure greatly enjoyed himself, as did she.
Well, he was a married man, it takes some adjusting.
Yeah. I'm sure Sam was looking for, after 7 episodes, I bet you were really looking forward to the scene, Sam.
I was looking at Nora with envy.
But what?
He's going to be dressing up in that uniform, isn't he? Like, oh, arrest me.
I'm surprised he didn't leave the Ray-Bans
Smash
on.
Smash my phone, Shoot the dog.
Leave the Ray-Bans on. Yeah.
Doggy style, not again.
Oh, that's like a really horrible euphemism, that is, for ejaculating and it shoot the dog. Fucking hell.
No, D can't come and join.
Oh,
he's not real.
Let's move on. Fucking hell.
Why do you think he was so uncomfortable at the start, though, Sam? To be slightly serious on this point.
I don't know, maybe it's like Ant said, just, it's just a bit of adjustment, but I can't help but think of earlier on in the episode when, their conversation after the 5th day kind of did break down a bit, and that they blamed it on all the guilty remnant, but if there actually isn't that much there, like beneath that kind of initial lust, I don't know, maybe. I'm not totally sure. Kevin and Nora are, on their individual kind of basis quite difficult to work out, so put them together and boy, are we going to have a tough time with that. But so Meg then reports to Laurie back in the Guilty Remnant HQ that Kevin's screwing Nora, but Laurie just writes down, so?
I wondered why, surely, well, I'll say surely now, but wouldn't have Meg known that Laurie wouldn't have cared, or kind of should have assumed that Laurie wouldn't care, if that makes sense, because that's the whole part of the Guilty Remnant, like, everyone else, families are gone, everyone's dead. I know it's very hard deep down to say, oh yeah, I don't care. But I'm surprised that Meg thought that she'd need to bring it up with Laura. I didn't quite understand that.
Yeah, I think as you've put in the doc, like saying that Meg similarly to Laurie, as much as she may, be acting like she's fully indoctrinated, this runs to the contrary.
Yeah.
As with all the things that we've talked about with Laurie in previous weeks. So there seems to be that element still in there that these people aren't fully committed.
Yeah, because I get that Meg is friends with Laurie, and if you found out one of your mate's partners was screwing someone else, you probably would you would do exactly what Meg's done here, but that's not the normal kind of relationship they've got.
Yeah, no, definitely. But so Kevin then tells Nora after they've done the deed that he thinks he might just be going crazy, but Nora just responds pretty nonchalantly. And as I was watching that, I'm just thinking that this is a really rare time that Kevin starts to open up and he's actually honest with someone about his difficulties. But then obviously Nora doesn't know, and so the kind of not serious response, and you're just thinking, no, he needs someone to talk to him properly. But obviously, Nora's not to know that.
See, that's interesting, because my perspective was almost like Nora's kind of on the same page. She's kind of in the same situation, and she kind of acknowledging it, understands it, and is like, yeah, don't worry about it, sort of thing, because I'm there as well. That's how I interpret it.
Maybe. What kind of just struggling and?
Well, yeah,
maybe that's what
Nora knows Kevin's going through a lot. I know he probably doesn't know all the medication he's taking, and the all the other things with Dean and the dogs and Amy and the shirts and all the rest of it, drink and driving and all the rest of it. But she was just getting shot in the last episode, right? So nothing's really that crazy for her anymore. This is just like a day off, isn't it? You know what I mean? It's just like a normal day.
Yeah, well, maybe that's why they're drawn to each other, because they both recognise the other one's struggling in their own way.
Sure.
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely. So at home, Kevin then seems quite a bit more positive with Jill the next morning, but he immediately gets pulled back into
Sorry, I was trying not to laugh. I was like, don't call him on it, and then I think you picked up on me laughing.
I did, but no. So he immediately gets pulled back into this whole, subplot of what's going on when he sees that the National Geographic magazine that Jill's ordered. And she's obviously ordered that after finding that note that she said that her granddad dropped on the bed that they were sitting on. And you just see immediately, again, that their relationship just kind of breaks down again. Because like I say, even it's only a 2-minute thing where Kevin seems quite a bit happier, and you're thinking, oh, okay, they might start getting on a bit better. But then, no, he sees this, and it just immediately, the barriers come back up. Then, he has a go at her completely unnecessarily. She goes storming off, and you're just thinking, come on, guys, just try and get along,
Sure, yeah. So you are given an explanation of how the magazine comes back, right? Jill finds the note and orders it online. But I can't help but think, is it, again, an instance of divine intervention? Like that magazine will find a way, into Kevin's possession one way or another. Just something to wonder, to ponder and wonder about.
No, it's just, I wasn't quite sure if it's divine intervention at this point, because it seemed like quite a logical series of steps that meant that to ensure that he would get it from Garvey Senior, because he does, for instance, asking. It was quite a surprise. I didn't foresee that Jill would order it. For example, I didn't realise that's what the note was, or when she tells the twins that was she using his money to buy it. In hindsight, I just realised that he was using one of the twins had given her his card to buy this magazine.
Yeah.
Online, I assume that's what she was ordering.
Yeah.
So I didn't see it so much as divine intervention, as just like quite a nice little. Here's a relatively straightforward way to explain how the magazine did get back to him, but kind of not without the quite, mystical element to it. If that makes sense.
Again, as I know I say this a lot, but this both
No answers.
interpretations. Yeah, well, both interpretations, are pretty solid, and so you're pretty much just left to figure it out for yourself. So thank you very much, Damon Lindelof, for that. That's for anyone who doesn't know. That's the showrunner. The showrunner on this. I both love him and hate him.
Well, that's what slightly concerns with him, because his last big program that I recall was Lost, wasn't it?
That was the one before. His last big one was Watchmen.
Okay, so
That's really good.
I haven't seen Watchmen, actually. I'll have to watch it. But my only concern is because with Lost, for example, that ended without really explaining what happened.
Wasn't that J.J. Abrams, though?
I thought he did. Did he not do Lost as well? If it is the same person, I think it's almost a concern that for me.
No, he was on Lost. Yep.
Yeah, because Lost was notoriously bad for not explaining anything and never really explaining what happened at all, and that's almost my concern, is that we're about to have the same thing again here.
Yeah, we'll just have to find out.
I think the thing is with Lost, this won't go on for a while because I haven't watched it myself, but I think by all accounts it was only meant to be 3 or 4 seasons. I think it ended up being 6, but that was basically because the network was like, okay, this is really popular, we want 8 seasons or something, and so the plan was never to do that many, so they had to just invent a load of stuff in the middle. Like I say, that's just kind of what I've heard about it. But like I say, with The Leftovers, it's only 28 episodes. It's it's fairly tight, and things do move at a decent pace. But anyway, so moving on from Damon Lindelof, maybe we could talk about him another time. But one thing I noticed about this is that the dog barking outside potentially seems to lead Kevin to the magazine, because he's kind of going away from it, and then he hears the dog barking, and the dog kind of jumps up at the window, and then he kind of like immediately turns around and gets drawn back towards the magazine and getting it out of the bin.
That's a good catch. That's a Phil Ant-esque point. That it's kind of like if our listeners and we can rewatch that moment and confirm that theory, it's a great point. But if it turns out to be slightly overstepping the mark, then it's a bit of a fail. But bit of a I think Sam. Exactly. I think, in all honesty, there is definitely something going on with the universe pointing Kevin in the way of the magazine. Yeah. I'm committed, and the themes aren't really that discreet anymore. You got this big amalgamation of, dogs and bridges and just virtually every theme we've ever spoke about. It's interesting just to see them all kind of connecting now.
Mm.
Yeah.
I was quite impressed. Because the first time I watched this, I didn't catch, how he hears the dog bark and then gets drawn back to the magazine. The only thing I thought of the first time I watched it, and this is going to be a really lettuce point, is the fact that I just thought, he didn't put the magazine in the recycling. That's the only thing I noticed. So when I read your note saying he hears and then gets drawn to it, so I'm like, oh, you're right, he does. That's a really good point.
Yeah, fucking...
that shows how he doesn't want to. No, I'm sorry, Phil. I've got nothing.
yeah. You know what? And I don't blame.
I was really trying for you, mate.
He tried.
Yeah, it was clutch. It was clutching.
But we'll get another link between Tom and Kevin here, because Tom gets a call from Holy Wayne, but just like Kevin earlier with Mary's carer's phone, Tom just smashes the phone up against the wall, and then at, I don't know, quote unquote home, I guess you could call it, wherever Tom and Christine are at the moment. We find out that she's managed to successfully deliver a baby girl all on her own after she's been ill, and so you know what, fair play to Christine for that. That's pretty good going.
Yeah. So the first thing I noticed in this scene was, did you notice, when Tom's on the street, the graffiti he's standing by, so he's kind of standing by a painted wall, but there's actually like a graffiti of it looks like a dark human silhouette that he's almost standing in front of.
Phil, you like freeze framing this episode and watching it frame by frame, because you're finding things that, I clearly didn't find. So
the key thing to note about me is I have a very short attention span.
But when it's on. So
what it means is that I kind of stop looking at what the main character's doing And I'll be like, oh, the person in the background's got a nice red jumper. And it's those little things in a show like this where they put a lot of things in the background is where it's actually quite useful, if that makes sense.
But do you know what is funny about that? I think if you was to re-listen to some of our other episodes, there's some quite obvious things that you say, oh, I never caught that. You're too busy fucking looking at the background.
Yeah, exactly. It's like when you said, him smashing the phone just as What's-His-Chops did. You're right, I didn't make that link. I was too busy looking like, oh, what's that shadow on the background?
Looking at the colour of the cat in the background. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, well, you know what? And when that comment pays off and it turns out that cat is... I don't know, the next messenger
it's
from our Lord and Savior. Yeah, is the Antichrist, or just a regular moggy. I'll be the first one to know. But
no, I'm gonna have a bit of I was gonna say I'm gonna have a bit of a freaky night. It sounds a bit weird, but after this is done, after this is done,
on the game of Monopoly. Yeah.
After this is done, I'm gonna have a workout in the shower, and then I'm gonna quite late. I'm gonna watch the. I'm going to see if these points come off, and I'm going to be watching it and be like, that is so strange. So, I can't wait to see what happens, Phil. For me, my point on this was, and I suppose it's because we know in episode 3, the title of the episode is, talking about the Antichrist, and you had the guy with the long hair, the naked guy, talking about, he come across quite demonic and what's in your belly and all that kind of thing. So, in my head, I've got that. The whole situation with Holy Wayne and Christine is that she's basically got a demon inside of her, or, the Antichrist, or all the Asian women have, or something like that. So for me, I kind of went in with the prejudice, if that's the right word, that, when she's there in the bath, and with the baby, I know it's always going to be a striking scene. A naked woman with a newborn right in a pool of liquid. Well, I don't know. It's that's not really that important, but it's just like it's quite a striking image, and I don't know if she looked a tad demonic, or it might be over egging it a bit, but
I was definitely just look worn out.
I was definitely struck by the striking nature of the scene. So
I didn't so much think that she looked demonic. I think she looked, because she makes the announcement. Did she say it's a girl or it's my daughter or something?
It's a girl.
It's a girl.
That's the point, isn't it? Yeah.
And so,
all the way through, he goes he.
Exactly. And then I thought she looked slightly disappointed. I'm not sure if disappointment's the right word, but she looks down, looks at the child. I didn't think demonic. I thought more disappointed, or kind of a bit at a loss of what this child is supposed to be, because she was expecting a boy. Was kind of how I saw it.
I didn't really infer that myself, but I can see what you're getting at in thinking about it. That is one of them that I'd have to go back and just kind of have a look at her expression. But to me, I don't know if I'm just seeing things a bit too simply, but she just looked a little bit tired. But I think she's smiling.
I didn't think she was. I didn't think she was smiling. She wasn't smiling. I wouldn't have said at any point she was happy or smiling about the child there. Also, this child's premature, isn't it? Because I thought she was only 8 months along, according to Tom, at the start of the episode.
Yeah, it's definitely early.
So, yeah.
But no, so overall message from that scene is fair play, Christine. You've done a fucking good job there. Rated.
So it might be the Antichrist.
Yeah, considering.
So that's the end of the synopsis for episode 7. So I'll just give a few overall thoughts and then let these two clowns riff for a bit and see us out. So I don't know. For me, it's another stellar episode, and there's quite a lot of setup in this one for a variety of different plots. Kevin and Nora, Jill, Tom and Holy Wayne. There's a lot going on, and it gives. Of course, this is the leftovers. It gives loads of things to discuss, and I must say that for me, I think Ant touched on it earlier, but Garvey Senior's scenes in every episode are usually really pretty good. I think the actor delivers a really good performance, and there's always interesting stuff going on. And another thing that I can't help but think, I'm not sure why, but like when he's nice, like when he says to Jill, like, good girl and everything, when he's normal, he just really makes you wish that he wasn't just so off the rails. Like, you know, you just think, oh, it's like with Kevin, you just think, oh, just be nice, you know, you're nice when you sound when you're really nice and everything. Like, you know, just stop being weird. But overall in this episode, we see lots of barriers kind of break or maybe start to break down. But then we see quite a lot of new ones being formed.
What do you mean by new barriers?
Mainly, I'm thinking between Kevin and Nora, and the fact that they both kind of
they're not compatible.
But like they understand each other, but they don't, you know, and they think that they're good for each other because they've both been through pain and that kind of stuff. But you know. Already we can see they're not talking about their difficulties or anything. They're just kind of being like, we'll be all right, you know?
I didn't really I never got the... I never really got the impression of barriers being put up between them, to be honest. If anything, I thought there was almost a level of them getting a bit closer. So it's interesting you say that you perceive barriers. Is that foreshadowing of what's going to come, or...?
If I speak, then I'm in trouble.
Fair enough.
I prefer not to speak.
That's the line. I prefer not to speak.
Marine area. Yeah. Okay. Well, I suppose Phil and I will see how that develops.
Look forward to see how it plays.
Yeah, can't wait. Yeah.
Can't wait to see how that happens.
Tune into next week.
In this scene, I must say, I was thinking, I can't wait to see what happens next. What an idiot.
For me, so there's a few themes that run across the episode that I've touched on and I'd just like to go into them. So I touched on the feeling of being trapped. So you've got the link with the post boxes between Tom and Kevin, and then also you've got Jill in the fridge, and then possibly Garvey Senior going back to the psychiatric ward. So there's something there. It seems like Kevin and Tom both bust up their left hand as well. They're both smashed phones, so are they living some sort of mirrored lives? Or again, don't know, but there's something there. Also, there seems to be a lot of blue in this episode, just the colour blue throughout it. So the sex scene, the blue light from Jill's phone when she's in the fridge, there's people wearing blue. You know, and I don't know if there's a tint on the lens as well. There's definitely something there.
Yeah, I noticed that. I think all the main characters you see are wearing blue. The pregnant women are both wear blue, the same clothing actually as we mentioned. What's Tom wearing? I'm trying to remember if Tom. I know he's got a green. I can see him with the green hat. I'm trying to remember if he's wearing anything blue himself as well. If he continues that theme.
Yeah, I'm not saying there's. Yeah, I'd have to check, Phil. I don't know. I'm not saying that blue is overly dominating, but I picked up on it. Like I don't know what blue represents or anything. It's just an interesting Blade Runner-esque kind of use of colour. I'm not really sure. The title of the episode as well, Solace for Tired Feet, and again, not really sure, but my stab at it would be it represents Christine. You're carrying the Antichrist around, and then finally get to deliver it. Perhaps a bit of retribution, perhaps with Tom as well, smashing the phone. That's his solace. Kevin and Nora, both having a troubled history up until this point, and then finally reconnecting. What's your take on the title of the episode, both?
So the only thing I could really link it to was because the only people I could think about who've been travelling a lot, that I get the impression be travelling a lot, is Tom and Christine, until you then meet the other couple as well. Do we learn their names, the other couple?
No.
Don't think so.
So I assumed it was something to do with him and the fact there'd be a big something to do with his big reveal potentially, or that their journey's potentially come to a bit of an end now that she's given birth to a child. That was the only thing I could think of regarding Solace for Tired Feet. What do you think, Sam?
I think, if we're talking about journeys, maybe not the literal, foot distance journey, but, the emotional journeys that everyone's been on. Obviously, Kevin and Nora have been on, a pretty big one, so maybe they can find a bit of solace in each other, perhaps. But
Us?
Not really too much else to offer on that, I must say.
The emotional journey we, the audience, have been on, especially us three,
It's it's almost as important to the story in The Leftovers, isn't it? Like our journey.
Yeah, exactly. This is what people are listening for.
Go on, Pastry. Wrap up, Pastry. Go on.
Save us from rambling.
No, so I think that about wraps us up for this week's episode. We're clocking in at well over an hour, even after we cut down some of the shit. So most of the things that
you said
that Ant says. Yeah,
I beat you.
Yeah, I gave you too much. Do you know what it was? I was starting to feel a little bit bad about having a go at you, but now that you've just had a go at me.
Right.
Oh, next time I won't be so considerate. But anyways, thank you so much for tuning in, as always.
Bye, everyone. Just before I sign off, Sam, do you just want to remind us what our Gmail is?
Yep, it's sapsreview@gmail.com, so you can, write in. Please do. Tell me, what a big meaty boy I am, and Ant about what a big fucking wet lettuce he is.
Because that's what we want. And Phil, our Twitter.
You can reach us at Saps Podcast.
Thanks, boys.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.